This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Thanks very much for tuning in to Unmissable. I'm Nabila Jamal. I take you through news from India and across the globe. Our top story on Deep Dive today, racism that's led to a murder of a Northeastern student in Uttarakhand. In fact, the 24-year-old boy who was murdered was teased by these men calling him Chinese. When he tried to argue with them, saying he's not Chinese, I'm Indian, his life was snuffed out. We're going to take you through the rising threat against Northeast. That's what protest groups claim, that they want better protection for their students. We'll take you through with our guests on board. And also on our top story on Deep Dive, fake rabies vaccine. Imagine 3 top countries, the UK, US and now Australia, claiming that India has stored and has administered some fake rabies vaccines. What's the truth to that? We'll take you through details. And finally on our top story on Day Tonight, the Unnao rape accused Kuldeep Sengar's bail has now been put on hold by the Supreme Court. As always, I start with the headlines first. DSE approves 79,000 crores defense procurement, clears missiles, radar equipment, spice missiles and loitering ammunition, includes T-90 tank overhaul, the Mi-17 upgrades and MRSAM for the Navy and the IAF. Delhi government sets up an expert implementation committee to tackle chronic air pollution. AQI slips to severe category as focus now shifts to scientific control, roads and vehicular emissions. Visibility drops sharply as Delhi airports cancel nearly 128 flights, delays over 200. Indigo cancels 80 flights across India. Rail traffic hit hard with 50+ trains running hours late, passengers facing major inconvenience. Supreme Court stays its own November 20th order on Aravalli Hills 100 meters height definition. The Chief Justice of India, Surya Kant, to set up high-powered expert panel to resolve the ambiguities. Stay until the committee is formed, with next hearing scheduled for Jan 21st. Now they've got to reassess whether the definition earlier given and approved by the Supreme Court is scientific or not. Year-end tourist rush overwhelms Himachal Pradesh as lakhs flood Shimla, Manali, Kulu. Nearly 10,000 vehicles enter Shimla daily. Snowfall triggers massive jams near Solong, Atal Tunnel. Hundreds of them rescued. Lalit Modi apologizes to Indian government after backlash over his video where he said, "We are the biggest fugitives of India." The video with Vijay Mallya. He says now that statement was misconstrued. He shouldn't have said it. In the now deleted video from Mallya's 70th birthday celebrations in London, Lalit Modi had joked about the pair's status as the biggest fugitives. He says, "We respect India, Indian government." He shouldn't have said it. Tragic episode, a 70-year-old man was killed as 2 coaches of the Tatanagar-Ernakulam Express caught fire in Andhra. AC coaches caught fire. Victim, one person who died, the victim identified. In fact, forensic teams now are trying to probe the cause of the fire that gripped AC coaches. TVK chief Vijay stumbled as he was literally mobbed. Chennai, where just at the airport where he had landed, crowd surged. They tried to come close to him. He was literally mobbed. He tripped. And this was all when he arrived from Malaysia. Fans there trying to greet him, and this is what they did. The actor was escorted by security to his car amid that mob. Right, now let's take you through our top story tonight on Deep Dive. We delve into a 24-year-old boy's death. Northeastern boy, Anjel Chakma, who was killed all because he did not look typically Indian. A young Indian is dead, killed not for a crime but for how he looked. 24-year-old Anjel Chakma, an MBA student from Tripura, died after a brutal racial attack in Dehradun. His only mistake was that he objected to the racial slurs hurled at him. Anjel lived in Dehradun's Premnagar area with his brother Michael Chakma. On the evening of December 9th, the two went to Silaki for work. They'd gone to a market, and while they were returning, they were confronted by a group of men. The abuse began. Those men started hurling racial slurs, questioning their identity, their appearance, called them Chinese. When the brothers protested, the argument turned violent. According to the FIR, Anjel Chakma asked a question that really haunts us. He asked a very pertinent question here. We are not Chinese, we are Indians. What certificate should we show to prove that? Minutes later, this boy was attacked with sharp weapons. He was struck on his head and neck so brutally with a weapon and a metal kada. He was critically injured, was admitted to the hospital for nearly 17 days before he succumbed. Police have arrested 5 of them: Avnish Negi, Shaurya Rajput, Suraj Khwas, Sumit, Ayush Barohi, and one man who is currently absconding is said to be the prime accused here. Reports suggest that he could have crossed over to Nepal. Yagya Avasthi. He's said to be Nepalese, and we believe that he may have escaped to Nepal. 25,000 rupees reward has been announced on his name as well. Teams have now been sent across borders to clamp down on him. But Anjel's death here has really triggered such outrage across Tripura, Northeast and across India, if I should be honest. Student groups now say this is not an isolated case, but they're looking at a rising pattern against violence against Northeastern students or Northeast people has been on the rise in the recent past, they say. Racial profiling, abuse, violence. Anjel, in fact, remember, is the son of a BSF Jawan. A BSF Jawan who's been posted along the borders of the Northeast to protect us. Imagine his son is not safe. The family says that they waited for nearly 12 days to file an FIR. That's the biggest shame here. The Uttarakhand government has a lot to answer. Opposition leaders say Northeastern students, Northeast Indians, in fact, on the whole, continue to be stereotyped. And this is one classic example, they say. They say, Gaurav Gogoi particularly, opposition leader, says that Northeastern people are misidentified as foreigners. They are mocked. There are slurs being hurled at them. In fact, it's true. A lot of Northeastern people are usually mocked by being called Chinese, by being called momos, by being called chow mein. Ridiculous words being hurled at them for no good reason, all because of their Mongolian features, just because they do not look like local Indians or like most other part of India. Does that mean they're any less Indian? This was the candlelit march that happened whole of last night, and Northeastern people are now coming together in solidarity, asking for stronger measures to ensure they are safe. We're going to take you through reactions from the family members and the opposition listening.
मेरा लड़का खड़ा था, छोटा लड़का, उसी से फिर बात करने लगा। मतलब वो लड़का ने बोला मेरे को चीनी, मोमो, मतलब चाइनीज, ऐसे मतलब ऐसे गलत व्यवहार बोल देते, गलत बात बोल देते। फिर पहले तो मैं फ़ोन में बात कर रहा था, उसने इग्नोर किया, बोला चलो दे तो बोलने दे, चुप रहा। फिर बाद में मुझे आगे ऐसे ज़्यादा ऐसे बोलने लगा, छेड़ने लगा। फिर इतना ही बोला छोटा लड़का ने, भैया आप लोग ऐसे क्यों बोल रहे हो, हम भी तो इंडियन है, ऐसे मत बोलो, ये बोला। ऐसे बोलते उसको मतलब उन लोग हाथ में कारा पहनते हैं, वो कारा से सिर पे मारा, पीछे साइड में मार के सीधा उधर नीचे गिरा दिया बच्चा।
चकमा जी कैसे हैं तरुण जी?
ठीक है।
बहुत हमारा एक्चुअली में बहुत ही दुखद घटना हुआ, हम बहुत दुखी हैं इससे, और इस पर हमने बहुत सख्त कार्रवाई के लिए कहा है यहाँ पर, है ना। और 4-5 लोग जो भी इसमें थे बदमाश, 5 गिरफ्तार कर लिए गए हैं, जो भी इस घटना में जिन्होंने भी अपराध में किया है। और एक कोई नेपाल का था, शायद वो नेपाल भागा हुआ है, कहाँ है, तो उसके ऊपर इनाम यहाँ घोषित हमने कर दिया है, और उसको पकड़ने के लिए भी टीम वहाँ पर भेज दी गई है पुलिस की ना।
जो जस्टिस चाहिए वो जरूर करेंगे। 5 आदमी अरेस्ट हुआ है और 1-2 शायद और बचा है, और उनको पकड़ने के लिए ऑलरेडी लोग भेजा भी है, और मेरे ख्याल से वो पकड़ा जाएगा। मैंने कहा किसी जगह में भी कुछ गैप नहीं होना चाहिए। उन्होंने मुझे एश्योरेंस किया है कि इन लोगों को जो जस्टिस देना है वो जस्टिस दिलाएंगे और उनको अभी 5 आदमी को अरेस्ट किया है।
हम ये अपेक्षा करेंगे कि अंजल चकमा के मामले में जल्द से जल्द कानूनी कार्रवाई हो, जल्द से जल्द कोर्ट में ये केस दाखिल हो, जल्द से जल्द और सख्त से सख्त सजा उन लोगों को मिले और पूरे देश में
on this. Very tragic to see what has happened, and it seems the Northeastern community says this is alarming and not a one-off case. We are here protesting because there are rising cases of attacks against the Northeastern people, and you know, I wouldn't deny it as a college goer myself. You know, we'd be influenced by friends and your classmates. You'd call a Northeastern girl or a boy chinky. I was schooled by a Northeastern girl. She said she warned me not to call her chinky, and so I didn't know what was so offensive at that point, and now I do realize it. But my point is there is no education. People don't even know. They don't realize what they're doing wrong, and it seems like now it's now suffocating the Northeastern community, and they've started speaking up, and people are not liking them speaking out. And look what happened to this Anjel Chakma. Because he spoke out, he bore the brunt of it.
Yes, I mean, if voice of the victim is heard properly, probably these kind of dehumanizing incidents would come out, will come down. But in this particular case, what has happened is a direct racist attitude, a racist perception of the other is framed by the attackers, by the perpetrators. So this perpetrator's point of view in this racist kind of a culture, which results into a lynch mob kind of situation for many of the Northeasterners. As my students of Northeastern communities do not feel safe in the entire north of India. South of India doesn't have much of these incidents, but north of India has been precariously having one after the other incident, and we can list many of these people who are lynched and killed. So this is extremely dehumanizing. And from this dehumanizing kind of a practice, we have to take a lesson. The lesson is that the whole idea of India needs to be recast. India cannot be recast in terms of dominant communities, dominant identities. The marginalized, the unrepresented voices, the different kind of people with a different kind of look, attitude, culture, faith, etc., are to be included within the very idea of India. I'm afraid that idea of India has remained exclusivist or exclusionary. And this has resulted into a feeling that India is only constituted by a certain mainstream. India does not include others who are distant from the mainstream. So this distance results into a kind of ignorance, a kind of non-knowledge, a kind of deliberate neglect or deliberate misrecognition, I would say, of the Northeasterners by the mainstream communities, and especially among the youth. When youth exude a certain kind of strength, a certain form of coming together in the form of a collective, that collective intention goes against the very idea of accepting the other, respecting the other. So therefore, that kind of collective mindset of virile kind of a racist mindset needs to be corrected.
Correct.
And mere education is not going to correct
I think it
needs
less,
a legal solution.
It's less to do with intolerance. I see less of intolerance, more of a superiority complex. You know, that we are better than you. I don't know why. When we talk about Chinese per se, or we talk about Koreans or Japanese, there's this newfound respect that Indians have for them. But our own Northeastern people, we think very low of. Why?
That's because we are not able to place our own idea of self amidst others. Our own internal others become our own other. While we try to contrast ourselves in terms of national identity, we are not able to come to terms with regional and local identities. Now that there is a diaspora starting from Upper Mekong down to Northeast, and anthropologists have found a certain kind of ethno-racial similarity. There is a history of migration. The entire trajectory and the history is totally ignored. in our mainstream understanding of what our nation is constituted by. Therefore, the map of India has to be understood by inverting it and starting it from the northeast of India if we have to establish a semblance of equality or a semblance of social harmony. Probably we need to undertake this project more seriously at the cultural level and also at the political level.
Absolutely.
And then we formulate a law. As my friend Misao was saying, we need a strong anti-racist law. Misao himself is a Kuki gentleman. I belong to the Northeast. I grew up in Kohima. I grew up in Silchar. I grew up in other places of Northeast. I know what kind of a pain has been inflicted in last 75 years by totally ignoring, by totally neglecting, sidelining, marginalizing, and then othering, and then committing violence repeatedly one after the other cases. And there is no justice in all these cases. So therefore, we are in the knowing face of a total darkness which our Northeastern brothers and sisters are facing in their mind because of this continuous...
It plays a lot on the psychology of people in the Northeast. As much as we think it's, you know, what's such a big deal? You know, people casually say chinky. It's so casual. Why should that hurt? So what if we call you Momo? South Indians are called Idli Dosa. You know, silly things like that. But it kind of, why are we normalizing this language? This absolute filthy language that India is normalizing. Why are we making this acceptable? Professor Rajalakshmi?
You know what happens is that India is a multi-ethnic society. Now, from the beginning, or rather, there is always this whole concept in our society about us and them. Like in the sense that, you know, if I'm a North Indian staying in South, there is always this North-South divide. And unfortunately, when it comes to Northeast, a lot of us, I mean, now that, you know, we have reached a stage where we have understood the different states of Northeast, okay? And there are a lot of, you know, awareness now in many universities. There is a lot of intermingling, there are understanding.
Yeah.
At one point of time, this understanding was not there.
Yeah.
I agree that 15, 16 years back, this understanding was not there. When I was a student, I was told deliberately by my teachers that it is very wrong to use the word chinky. Then we would ask them what else to use. Okay. As much as I'm a South Indian staying in Delhi, most of the times I used to be called Madrasi. And I used to keep telling them, no, I'm from Andhra Pradesh. There is Tamil Nadu, then there's Karnataka, and then there's Kerala. Okay. So one point of this whole stereotyping is mainly because of unawareness and having a little lack of knowledge, because the exposure was not that much. Today, there's a lot of exposure. People do understand each other and all. This incident, it's a very, very unfortunate incident which should not have happened. But many a times what happens is that when there is a conflict, when there is a fight, when there is some kind of a clash, then you tend to use certain words, statements which you want to deliberately and emotionally hurt the other person. And the most immediate, expression which comes is for a person who is from the Northeast is chinky, Chinese or Momo. That's a very, this thing. And whereas we have to, the young people,
obnoxious.
Everybody has to be told that these are the words which emotionally hurt the others. Okay.
I'm South Indian too, ma'am, and I will not tolerate someone calling me Madrasi. It's not like I'm so insulted by it, but I believe that,
yes,
like you rightly said, there are different states. I belong to Karnataka, so you got to have that demarcation while you speak, right? There should be context.
It's very important.
I, for one, will try to educate the other person, and I will speak out. But what we see by and large is the Northeastern community people are largely very timid. They're very soft. They don't want to get into a confrontation. They politely, they don't even acknowledge it. Sometimes if they're angry, they walk away. They don't even get into confrontations. They're very soft and polite, and they don't want to get into any kind of mess, right? I think that's worked against them. That's worked against them.
It happens because sometimes it's also very difficult to express very fast because you're in a very different terrain, in a different region. And language also becomes a very, difficult thing, and expressions also. Sometimes you lack, because of accent or because of, some kind. So therefore, it's basically lack of awareness and lack of understanding. that these kind of incidents do happen. Over a period of time, if you actually look at the data, there is more of acceptance, there is more of, interaction, intermingling, especially in metropolitan cities. In many universities, you see that there is a lot of exchange, cultural exchange, one respects. And also the state has started encouraging tourism, where a lot of people have now started visiting Northeast and understanding the difference between each state and the way in which people from each state look. So there is this understanding, emerging. We should respect that and we should encourage that and try and avoid any kind of language, any kind of sentiments which may hurt any other community. And it should be very, very carefully, one should be very careful in one's language. That's what I feel. And, that can also instigate. Many a times in these cases, they are like, the investigation, these cases, the reasons are much beyond what it actually appears to be. This is what I feel, because we should not be, I'm sorry to say this, but should not be very quick in judging that it could be racial, because we should teach our youngsters to be more tolerant and more inclusive rather than having these kinds of...
It's absolutely not okay to call a Northeastern
No, it's not
person
at all, not
chinky
at all, not
or
at all,
momo. It's not even funny.
It's
But,
not
that's the
not
thing.
correct.
As What are they teaching students in school
It's
today?
not correct. Not
No,
correct
if
at
students are not even able to establish what's the difference between our Northeastern states, what are children learning in school then? Why is there no special focus? Is there a way that we can undo this? The years of trauma that the Northeastern people in India have faced, is there a way we can undo this?
More and
culturally?
more awareness, more and more cultural interaction, more and more visibility of their richness of their culture, richness of their terrain, the contribution which the Northeast has done towards India as a whole. This should really be highlighted, because each state is very unique, very beautiful, culturally very rich. The food is very rich. I have traveled across different Northeast states and really liked it. So this kind of interaction, understanding, awareness and education should be there, so that we all understand each other. This is what I feel.
Hejang, if I could ask you about the number of cases that are registered with the police of racial attacks, do you believe those aren't the actual number? The real number of cases aren't even reported, because people are worried that the cops will not take you seriously. They're not receptive to a complaint like this. Yes, there is no anti-racial law yet, a strong one that can, clamp down on this. But so far, so long, how has the community waded through this? Does the police take you seriously? Because in this case, Anjel Chakma's killing, 12 days later is when the police filed the FIR. And that's shocking, despite his father being a BSF Jawan.
Yeah, I think that's the right question that one needs to ask. One thing which we need to understand is what is happening on Anjel is just one case. I think that's just one tip of the iceberg. I think the larger incidents which are not reported, there are numbers of cases which are racially motivated, as well as the Northeastern part, Northeastern. I think there are a number of cases which are not being reported, because even in this case, I think everyone should know the delay in filing a FIR. That is how the authorities are also, I would say, treating to the people of the Northeast. So, sensing that the authority will not be proactive. So there are numbers of people who fail to also approach the police department or the other authorities. So while I also acknowledge and appreciate the arrest of 5 accused in this case, I think justice must go beyond this arrest. There should be a swift and transparent trial of the accused. At the same time, institutional accountability is what is needed. Institutional accountability in workplace, school, colleges, and also in public places. Unless such institutional accountability is, put in place, I think our safety will be always a concern. In spite of being Indian, in spite of being in our own country, in our own motherland. At the same time, there should also be national level anti-racism legislation ensuring the protection of the Northeast community. With these cases, I'm also referring to the Northeast, but this anti-racism should be for the protection of every minority who are always targeted, who are always the soft target. At the same time, there should also be mandatory sensitization program for law enforcement, educational institutions, and also in all workplace. Unless we do that, I think this won't be the last incident. It will be something which will go on a trend, and every Northeastern people will have that same feelings of not feeling safe in your own country, and that's very unfortunate. At the same time, what I would also put forward is like public recognition of the Northeast identity and contribution has to be made to every Indian. Unless we do that, I think the so-called unity in diversity or the plurality of India will be under conflict. And even now, it's already under conflict.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And on a final word, Professor Prasenjit, if you could give us a word of advice, and what do you think a standard protocol should the government do with immediate effect that should kick in after this case at least? We should wait no more here for another case of such nature to come to light, but with immediate effect, standard protocols that should be set in to ensure such kind of racism is not unleashed.
First thing is to totally disband the slurs that have been used before they are killed. The second thing is that formation of a mob and a lynch mob, that has to be properly tackled by forming laws that completely disband this kind of a formation of a lynch mob. The third important thing is wherever Northeastern people are there, this kind of a cultural campaign of inclusivity, as Professor Raj Lakshmi also was suggesting, has to be carried out so that the other India, which is not part of the mainstream, is also known with equal sense of urgency, with equal sense of belongingness. So that sense of belongingness has to be recultivated, reignited among the people who are in the mainstream. And that is one task that has to be taken up by the mainstream itself. As a Northeasterner and understanding the mindset of the Northeast, I clearly understand that no one in the Northeast feels that they are accepted, they are included as part of the India. So therefore, there is this mental distance. How do we cover this mental distance? It's not just symbolic programs and accommodation, but it's more an intimate understanding and relationality that needs to be cultivated in terms of friendship, in terms of fraternity, which is not there at this moment, and it requires a programmatic, step-by-step process. Absolutely. And this starts with a campaign, goes to education, goes to legality, goes to the social level of interaction. So all these have to be encompassed in our broad-based understanding of removing this particular evil forever from the mainstream of India.
I agree with you, and all we can say is absolutely condemn what has happened here, and we hope this is the last of it. I really pray that the community feels safe, and we as Indians are supposed to be now going out of our way to ensure we learn the Northeast, we understand them, we imbibe them, and we celebrate them. I think that's about time that we stop othering them. They're part of us, they're one of us, they are us. Thanks very much, all of you, for joining us on this today. A quick break and we'll be right back. On the other hand, we're taking you through a story on rabies vaccine. 3 countries have now raised an alarm about fake vaccines of rabies that's allegedly being given in India. India has responded to that. Stay with us.
2026, take notes. Manifesting. For my little Miss Sunshine, tickles and giggles. Also wanna be a biker chick this time. And year 2026, only love for my people and myself. To manifest my best life, nature's cosmic energy. Now mine, natural diamond intention pendants.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
Bangladesh is on edge. Protesters also targeted symbols of Bangladesh's political history.
Mr. Yunus is being the new Jinnah of Bangladesh.
What defines this mob? Who are these people? Where do they come from? Pratham Alo, the newspaper, has also called it a terror attack.
Yunus is the Osama bin Laden of today's world.
The state has no strength, or those who are on the street are the state themselves. There's nothing called spontaneous mob. There's a theory called you keep the pot boiling.
Welcome back. Now, the question that's being raised is whether rabies vaccine that's given in India is real or is it counterfeit? Do we know if rabies vaccines given in India is fake or real? There are three major countries who flagged off a concern. After the United States and the United Kingdom, now Australia has come out to issue an advisory warning that fake rabies vaccines may be circulating in India. In fact, in its December 22 advisory, Australia says anyone who received the rabies vaccine, Abhayrab, in India from November 1st, 2023 should consider taking a replacement dose because it could be fake. The warning flagged a risk that some people may not be fully protected against rabies, a disease that is almost always fatal once symptoms begin. Australia's immunization watchdog, the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, said counterfeit batches of Abhayrab were reported in India and cautioned travelers who are traveling to India and back, and the doctors also, to stay alert. Australia is not the only one. In November, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in the United States has also flagged off the same thing. Reports of counterfeit vaccines of Abhayrab circulating in India. The warning came while referring to a rabies case involving a traveler who was returning from India to the United States. CDC advised anyone exposed to rabies in India now to seek immediate medical care. Even after returning home, they were asked to take another replacement vaccine because they don't trust. In October, United Kingdom, the health authorities there went a step further. They launched a lookbook exercise tracking travelers who received rabies vaccines in India since November 2023 to assess whether extra doses were needed or not. 3 Western health systems have flagged this off, but India so far has not raised an alarm as it should, though the manufacturer has responded. The Indian Immunologicals Ltd, that IIL, the company there, has rejected all claims of a widespread problem here. The company says only one counterfeit batch was involved. Details shared by them was the batch that was faulty. They've in fact mentioned the batch number, which is KA24014. That's what on our screens there mentioned. Manufactured between March 2024, that period. The expiry was Feb 2027. This is only one batch that was corrupt, they admit. They say packaging anomaly was detected in January 2025, after which regulators and law enforcement were alerted and a formal complaint was filed. Now, the company maintains the counterfeit batch is no longer in circulation and we are safe because now whatever vaccine is out in the market is genuine. All genuine vaccines are tested by the Center's Drugs Laboratory. Government hospitals and authorized distributors supplied verified vaccines only, is what the company says. But still, the word fake is now triggering most of us. Anxiety is widespread because we know that nearly 20,000 people in India have been infected by rabies. It's a menace. Dog bites are reported widespread in the country. According to World Health Organization, rabies is a viral disease that attacks the brain and spinal cord and is almost always fatal once the symptoms appear. The virus spreads through bites or scratches from infected animals, most commonly dogs. Rabies can incubate for weeks or even months, which means protection from vaccination is critical before symptoms start. Globally, rabies kills about 59,000 people every year. In India alone, 20,000 people are at risk to rabies, according to a December 2024 paper published. Well, it seems like Australia raising an alarm has really led to a lot of concerns within the country. We're hoping for the Indian government to come out and settle this confusion for us once and for all. Let me bring in our guests joining us for a little more on this. We have Dr. Narendra K. Arora, Executive Director, the Inclin Trust International and President of AIIMS Bilaspur. We also have Dr. Dilip Bhanushali, the past President of the IMA. Thanks both of you for joining us. Dr. Narendra, would you want to start on the fake rabies vaccines allegedly circulating in India? Three major countries, Western countries, US, UK and Australia have now flagged this off. In the latest, Australia says anybody coming back with rabies vaccine has to get an alternative in their country. But what's sad is that so far the Indian government has not said a word on this, or neither the medical fraternity. What are we supposed to believe? And the most number of infections in the world of rabies happen in India.
Fabula, thank you very much for inviting. In fact, you summarized the whole sequence of events very nicely and succinctly in the beginning. And that's what I understand from various sources, that it was the company which raised an alarm in January 2025 this year.
Yeah.
That they have come across some packing which looks suspicious and counterfeit. And for this, this whole alarm was raised by the company themselves. And as you rightly said, that the company is a government company. And probably they have the largest the share of anti-rabies vaccine in the country. Almost 40% of the vaccine is from this particular company. So they were also very worried. And what from reports I understand, and also from various sources, that an extensive investigation was launched by the regulators, and they have not been able to find any sample of this particular batch. And whatever other samples have been picked up, they are all of the right quality. And therefore, in fact, I would say the company in their own judgment had suspicion, and they raised the alarm rather than this alarm coming from somewhere else. And unless I think the investigations are ongoing, and as soon as these are completed, they will be shared and with the public domain. But we know that this particular vaccine enjoys very high credibility, and otherwise their other products, vaccine products, are also acceptable in the country and the National Immunization Program. Okay,
Dr. Dilip, would you want to tell us a little more about the rabies as a disease? I mean, if you are, if a dog scratches or bites you, then if the dog is infected, then you're very well to contract that infection. But our hope is that a vaccine will save us. But what do you say if there are counterfeit in the market? And it's such bad reputation for India, which is known for its medical facilities and its pharmaceuticals across the globe. An alert like this given by three top nations, UK, US and Australia, has really brought bad repute to India.
Thank you for inviting. Rabies, as everybody knows, is a fatal disease. And we have vaccines to prevent this. And for ages, we have been using this vaccine to prevent rabies throughout India. And for the general public, it should be known that we have vaccines which are manufactured in India, are very safe, very effective, and we have been using this from ages. Now, this vaccine, what you have been mentioning, was one of the batch which was got, and it has been reported by IIL, the manufacturer themselves.
and it's no longer available. And from that vaccine, we haven't reported any case of death in India right now. And neither the government has come openly yet to say something about it, and neither the drug control of India has said anything. So to blame that the vaccines are not potent or are not this thing is absolutely wrong. We have been using these vaccines for years together. One batch may be bad, but that batch is no more available. And advice from IMA is that vaccine should be taken. If there is a dog bite, they should consult their doctor. And Indian vaccines are 100% safe and can be taken.
But when you say find an alternative, what kind of alternative would you want to just, you know, for anyone who's been bitten by a dog, what should be your immediate reaction?
Immediate reaction is, you see, the nature of bite, right? But it should be shown to, whether it's a scratch, whether it's a bite or a fatal bite, it should be shown to a doctor, and vaccination should be done. There's a whole course of vaccination which should be done, which should not be stopped in between. Depending upon a vaccine, plus the immunoglobulin what we give has to be given. So they have to go to a doctor and take his advice.
Okay, so go to a doctor and take his advice. Dr. Narendra, would you say that it's almost mandatory that if you're bitten by a dog now, just get vaccinated, do not think twice, even if the dog is injected, or even if the dog has got its vaccine done, you still should be doubly sure and get a vaccine shot?
See, there are two things. One is, yes, as you rightly said, we have the world's largest rabies cases.
Yeah.
And most of these bites are because of the stray dogs. Because the pets, most of them, they are immunized for rabies. The second thing is that no fake or counterfeit sample has been found so far by the company on even these countries. These three countries have not reported that they have come across any fake vaccine. The important thing is that they have also picked up this from more news item. I understand it was published somewhere in March this year in one of the newspapers. So this whole issue is not based on actual identification of fake material. And I totally agree with Dr. Saab that India is the largest manufacturer of vaccines. Even for rabies, there are more than two or three brands which are available in the country, and they are all highly regarded and they are exported all over the world. And as I till date, no fake sample has been found. So therefore, we have to wait till the DCGI office comes out with their report. But apparently, we have to be also seen the reason why all this advisory has come. And we should appreciate the company that they raised the alarm rather than any client or regulator raising the alarm. They raised the alarm right in the beginning. So I completely endorse with my co-panelist is saying that we produced highest quality of vaccines. It is not only rabies, but all the other vaccines. The answer
to make it absolutely simple on a parting note, sir, as I am short on time, does a person need to take an alternative if at all you're bitten by a dog, an infected dog?
So yeah, that's the answer I was trying to give you. At the moment, there is no basis of talking about alternative. This vaccine itself is a very good vaccine, as very rightly being said, that it has been used for ages and it is very effective. There are hardly any side effects of this vaccine. It's a very safe vaccine and very effective vaccine. So in my country, I would say there is no need for going alternative, but whichever vaccine is prescribed, it should be given.
All right, that's all I have time for. I really appreciate Dr. Dilip and Dr. Narendra for joining us on that. All right, let me quickly cut across to all our top stories on day tonight. Let's start with the Unnao rape case. The Supreme Court today has stayed the bail granted to former Uttar Pradesh MLA Kuldeep Singh Sengar in the Unnao rape case. This comes days after the Delhi High Court suspended his life sentence and had ordered his release. The bench, led by Chief Justice Surya Kant, along with Justices J.K. Maheshwari and A.G. Masi, passed the interim order while issuing a notice in the matter. The top court was hearing two petitions, one by the CBI and other by two advocates, challenging the High Court's decision to suspend Sengar's sentence. With the Supreme Court stay, Sengar's bail is now on hold until further orders. The Unnao rape survivor has welcomed the Supreme Court's intention and its verdict says that she will continue to fight to ensure justice is delivered and that he gets death sentence. That's what the victim says. During the hearing, the court expressed serious concerns over Sengar's claim that an elected MLA cannot be treated as a public servant under the POCSO Act. The bench observed that such an argument would mean even lower rank officials could be considered public servants but not elected representatives. CBI has told the court that Sengar was a powerful MLA at the time and held a position of dominance over the minor survivor, which attracts aggravated offence provisions under POCSO. Sengar's lawyers oppose this, arguing that MLAs are excluded from the IPC definition of public servant and that criminal law cannot be stretched through interpretation. Noting that important legal questions are involved, Supreme Court has issued notice and will hear this matter in detail.
मैं खुश हूँ, मुझे सुप्रीम कोर्ट पे भरोसा है, रहेगा। अभी मेरी लड़ाई तो बाकी है, अभी तो उसको फांसी तक लेके जाना है, तभी तो मेरे पिताजी को और हमें इंसाफ मिलेगा। एक इज्जत, उन्होंने इज्जत में एक लड़की के साथ रेप किया, हमारे साथ रेप किया, तभी तो हमें इंसाफ है जब उसको फांसी होगी। जैसे मेरी निर्भया बहन को फांसी दी गई, उनके दोषियों को, वैसे हमारे भी दोषियों को फांसी दी जाए।
Now, we're looking at a case of harassment in Uttar Pradesh's Bareilly. Members of the Bajrang Dal are accused of storming a restaurant in Bareilly's Rajendra Nagar on Saturday evening and disrupting a birthday party that was hosted by a nursing student after objecting to the presence of her Muslim friends. According to the student, who has sought anonymity here, she and two of her Muslim classmates were assaulted during the incident. The video purportedly showing the disruption inside the restaurant has surfaced, though its authenticity is yet to be verified. Now, she says the party was attended by 10 students, 6 women and 4 men, all of whom were all classmates, her classmates. The student alleges that Bajrang Dal members accused the group of love jihad, raising slogans there and creating ruckus inside the restaurant in Prem Nagar area. She claims that when the restaurant staff called the police officers, asked the students to leave the venue. In fact, while no action was taken against the attackers. The sad part is here that the cops detained the victims while letting those perpetrators scot-free. That's the shocker here. One of the Muslim youth was allegedly assaulted during the incident and a girl who tried to intervene was also reportedly attacked. And despite that, the cops let go of those attackers and detained those who were harassed by these alleged Bajrang Dal members. In the girl's complaint, she says the student has now demanded that those involved in the assault must be identified and arrested. Police, however, says love jihad claim was found to be baseless. But that was basically after all of it was done and dusted. That's when the police claim we did not find any trace of love jihad. But they let go of the accused while they detained those victims. In fact, the cops now saying investigation is underway. A Bajrang Dal leader